Hello, Nesters. It's been a little bit of a layoff between podcasts. Not through design, more by accident. We wanted to get a pod away last week after the Tigers debacle. We simply ran out of time and couldn't find a moment to do it. So early this week, after the derby, we're on board, the derby, I should say. We're on board for it. Garvey here with you, alongside Drew Jones. Drewy, plenty to take stock of in Eagles land. Not too much of it positive, just for a change.
Well, if we had have done the podcast last week, I would have just been ready to fire off just bullets left, right and centre. I was so freaking annoyed after that Richmond game. The combination of the GWS and I know that we had a game in between, but the GWS and Richmond games really have annoyed me. Watching us play against the Dockers, I thought against a team that are just so much better than us in every facet, I thought we at least, we put up a bit of a fight. And obviously we've got some pretty serious personnel issues right now. So Overall, I don't feel as yuck as I did this time last week, but still not a lot to be happy about, is there?
No, we should still go back on the Richmond game without wanting to do a deep dive on two games. That was the most disappointing moment of the season, that third quarter against the Tigers, because that was a great opportunity for us to win a game, first and foremost. I think our form line, our game plan, our structure had been better than theirs for about 2 months leading into that game. There were a lot of positive moments. It felt like this is the game we're going to get another win. We're going to show that we're a lot better to a lot of people around the country than some had given us credit for. In the first half, we were kind of with them. There were 2 moments in the first half that really let us down. I thought we were the better team for large parts. It's the Brady Hoff rundown, which, we love the Hofster, but that was just a poor moment. Liam Baker's screaming at him and he just had a real bad lapse of concentration with so much time, and that Rioli runs him down, and then the Tigers get a lift from that and take a lead into quarter time, and then Ryan Marrick's bad turnover at half back to kick another goal from it. All of a sudden we go down a couple goals down at half time when we probably should have been a couple goals up on the balance of play. But then the give up in the third quarter was just hard to fathom. And in a game like that, to drop your bundle, it's honestly, I'm not sure we've given up too many times this season. There's probably been a few moments, but that was a legitimate just stop. And that was really hard to take.
Yeah, I mean, some of our away performances have been positive. Like we were good against Collingwood, we were reasonable against Port Adelaide, certainly early, and then they eventually ran us down, which wasn't like totally surprising away at Adelaide Oval. But we started well in that Richmond game, and then just abhorrent errors cost us. And then, like you say, it felt like we had just dropped our bundle. It was all too much. No confidence, like fragile confidence. But the fact that once it felt like it wasn't going our way, Richmond got a run on. That was just it. It was just all over. Funnily, you mentioned the Maurice Rioli rundown. So he was going at 36 k's an hour. Hoffy was going at 30, which is still reasonable with ball in hand. But that it ends up being this iconic moment for Richmond. Another
fucking Richmond rundowns this season against us.
Just about to say, for fuck's sake. Anyway, that's I'm happy to put that one in the past. You know what? Richmond are well coached.
They've been good. Credit to them.
Uze's a better coach than people thought, and certainly he's shown that this season. And they just got the mix right. I spoke about this, I think, on the Fox Footy podcast, which I turned into a bit of a mini nest, if anyone wants to listen to it from last week. They have got experienced players who have bought in the right places. Like Broad's been great. Jaden Short's, a good player. We know that. Premiership player. He won a best and fairest in Premiership year. Nankervis in the ruck. They've just got this absolute warrior who just does everything for the team. Nick Vlaston is probably one of the most underrated medium defenders of the modern generation with 3 flags under his belt. And it just seems like they've got the right allocation. So Hopper and Taranto aren't superstars, but they're very good players in the midfield where you need, that's the basis of your game, is to have solid midfield play. We don't have that, and we've lost key defenders. They've got good key defenders, or they've got good experienced defenders. So the allocation of experience and resource is just better at Richmond, and that's why they're a better team than us.
Yeah, well, I think it just showed up that the injuries to our experienced players are so costly. So you mentioned those players for Richmond. I mean, you put Oscar and Jake and Yowie and Gov still around, and Jack Graham not out suspended, all in our team, and it's a different situation altogether.
Yeah.
And so, we finished the game against Freo on the weekends, and we'll touch on that in a moment. But we've now got 7 of our best 10 players out, and our best 4. I think the start of the season, our best 4 were Yo, Gov, Jake, and Oscar Allen on our list. And maybe Baker nudges out Oscar. But either way, with Harley out this week and probably for the rest of the season, I dare say Harry Edwards misses, considering he twinged a hammy. I don't know how he can play the next week. Graham still. I'd say Baker, Jinby, and Hoff would be the only 3 of our best 10 playing this week. So it's very hard to compete, never mind win games when that's the case. And I thought the Melbourne game coming up this week was a sneaky opportunity for us, but we just got too many out. It's just going to be too hard in that sense, especially with Harley out, which probably frees others up to have an attack and show that they can win contested ball. But the quality there against Sarong and Brayshaw, the gulf is just too steep. And then Harley gets tagged now because why wouldn't you? Because who else can win the hardball for West Coast? Well, no one unless they put Baker in there, which they don't do enough of for our liking. It's really, really difficult. So, yeah, we fought hard against Freo, but, our stoppage work was lacking as it was always going to be. And there were moments when our pressure dropped off. First 10 was pretty good, and then we just had a couple of moments where we just switch off, or maybe it just becomes too hard because you're under the pump so much, and so you give up a couple of soft ones. They kicked poorly. I thought our defenders tried really hard. I thought Brock and Bazzo worked really hard. I thought the likes of Jinby and Cole had a good game. And Marek scrapped away at a couple of good, courageous moments. They tried their best, but you just cannot deal with the weight of ball coming in like it was, because you just cannot win enough stoppages to get it going your way to set things up. And that's just going to be a problem for the rest of the season until we can hopefully recruit a couple of mids.
Yeah, so 18 scores from stoppage, which obviously is a pretty high number, and it's something we just couldn't get control of or a handle on. And the fact that it was interesting that a bit of cat and mouse with Harley Reid, right? Like, so at certain times he was almost like he was trying to play on Luke Jackson and create like an outnumber somewhere else because he was getting tagged. But like Hayden Young just had such a great game, even though he played only about 50% game time or something. Like, he just cut us apart. We weren't able. He was just a bridge too far for us to stop Young. Like, Sarong was good and Brayshaw was okay, but Young just was a class above, and shows how important he is, obviously, to the Dockers. But we just don't bat anywhere near deep enough. Like, even a guy I was watching the footy with who's a big Freo fan, I don't know if he was being facetious, but like there were guys who were running around for us. He's like, who is that? Like, we've got guys running around in our midfield who are less, they're waffle guys who are doing their best to get a crack at AFL level, but it's just not even comparable, is it? So I thought Kelly was better than last week, at least.
Yeah.
And he played an okay game still in flashes. I still wonder, like, if you break down the vision, what happens the other way? Like, even we saw there's a couple of replays where the ball like goes past him or over his head, and Fremantle just walks straight out of the front of the stoppage, and he's not even he's not doing enough the other way to justify what's happening defensively.
His numbers were good. His numbers were good in the game, a couple of goals, but Adam Simpson made a good point recently on a radio show. His power in the legs has gone. And for whatever reason, he just cannot hit that breakneck speed that he used to have to break games open. So, the game he had on the weekend was the kind of half-forward game I think we'd like him to have, where he can have 20, kick a couple, create. But through the midfields, he doesn't win enough stoppage, and he does get hurt the other way, as you say. So a much better game from him, but I don't think it was one to sing from the rooftops about. I mean, Baker was excellent again, and I've spoken about some of the defenders, but it was too few and far between. And Liam Ryan, I thought was poor. Takes a big mark late, which is great, but either his body's ailing him a little bit. He's not giving us a lot. It was the kind of game that made me think, all right, I'm okay with us trading Flying. I'd love to see him get back to his best. Still a huge rep for what he can be, but you worry about his body now. Those hamstrings, are the best days of him just gone? And is he one of few players with a bit of currency that we can trade to someone who needs an extra element in their forward line, and we get something back that's better for our rebuild? I'm open to that at the moment. And then the other one is,
I'll say if someone's offering us a good pick for Ryan, I'm doing that deal. Like it's not detracting from, like we're always going to have the glory years. It's not detracting from that. It's better for him to go to a contender where he's a better player on a better team, and it's better for us to have the draft pick, in my opinion. Yeah.
And then the other one is, so I point these two guys out because they are players with experience who, although they're playing in a forward line where, you're starved of opportunity, they can still run into the midfield and make contests and help break the game up. So Ryan, I've mentioned, the other was Owies. So Ryan has 3 possessions to halftime. Matt Owies has 1, then gets subbed out. Matt Owies has 2 years left on a deal. He was steak knives in the Baker trade, so let's not talk about giving up too much. We didn't really give up anything for him. He was thrown in. But unfortunately, we can now see why Carlton made the decision to let him go. And a lot of people thought, that's weird. Always kicked over 30 goals last season. Why is he the one making way? But the leg speed's not really there. The skill level's not there. He's low on confidence at the moment. He's trying hard. He really is. But I don't see how he has a future in our team over the next 2 years of his contract. That's going to be, I think, a bit of an awkward one for us.
Yeah, so Carlton's small forwards at the moment are Jesse Motlop, who's like a C grader, Will White, who's an SPP, like he looks okay, but he's a C grader. Is it Cam Durden?
Corey Durden.
Corey Durden, he's a C grader.
And Lockie Fogarty.
Lockie Fogarty is like maybe the best of them. I give him like a B minus. Always is just in that same conversation. So to me, he was out of contract. West Coast were willing to, give him a 3-year deal on probably slightly better money. But he has had an absolutely disgusting season. He has been
it's been really poor.
He's been awful. He kicked 30 goals last year, playing in a forward line that has Harry Mackay and Charlie Kerner.
Yeah. And now we're starting to see why he was able to get a good return.
That's the difference. So, this is the challenging thing of assessing small forwards is that they play arguably the hardest position on the ground, and ultimately a lot of what their end product is based off what their teammates do up the ground and perhaps the people they have around him. So Matt Owies was never going to come to West Coast and kick 30 goals, but he just doesn't pass the eye test. That's the frustrating thing for me, is like you're watching him run around and you're like, what the hell is he even contributing? And then when he gets his chance, he's a horrible set shot, like really, really bad. Misses easy goals.
Yeah, the skills are lacking.
That is just unforgivable. Because like, we've worked so hard to get these opportunities. So, and after the game, McQualter was asked about him, and he sort of defended him and said, "Oh, he's been injured and yada yada." So, this is something I wanted to ask you. When you hear McQualter defend Owies, do you think that McQualter can be Can he be objective here because he's part of the team that brings him to the club, or does he really? Does he really truly want to defend him and believe that he's a leader? Because that's what he said. Oh, he's a leader around the team.
For the team who would have played him that week. I think form played a part in him being in the waffle. So no, I'm not overly concerned about that. We thought he would be the hard work, energy setter in the forward line, and he hasn't been that. It's not like he's chasing down and tackling 5-6 times a game. He's better getting hands on the opposition. So it's not working out at all. I mean, Brockman has been okay. I think he's had a decent season. There are moments he fades out of games far too often, but at least when he goes near the ball, he makes something happen more often than not. We'd like to see that for 4 quarters out of him. We know there's a footballer there, but you keep playing Brockman surely because you can see there is possibility, there's opportunity. With Owies right now, I don't see where the opportunity is. And I don't know how he sees out the final 2 years of his contract as it stands.
I just don't like that Dewar is sub. I'd rather just have him in from the start, even if he's going to play the small forward role. So it was tough for us with the two young key forwards, like between Archer Reid and Shanahan. That's a building block for success is not having two teenagers as your key forwards. Obviously, it's mitigating circumstances for us. But at least I look at Shanahan and Archer Reid and I'm excited about what they can do and what they'll be. And that's something that we can at least get to the end of the season and say, at the start of next year, round one, like hopefully it's Waterman and Shanahan, like in our forward line, and perhaps Archer Reid is in there. Maybe it's Bailey Williams. Like that, I can get excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we know there is reason to be optimistic about what's possible next season. We've just got to beef up the midfield massively. And there's going to be some hard calls to be made on a number of players. And the next 4 weeks are going to be really interesting. So you think Gross definitely comes in this week. I mean, Chesser needs a run. Maybe Hunt comes back this week to provide some level of experience, even though he's not the future against his old side. With Harley probably going out or definitely going out and always probably being dropped, maybe just put someone else there. He had a good game in the waffle. Try to give them some leadership around the ground. But, there are other players who are, one player I'm mystified about in terms of the way we're using him at the moment is Hutchinson. So I just don't see him as a long-term winger for us, Drew, which is where we're playing him right now. I can see why they've decided to play him there because he can run all day and he's got an excellent engine. He's great in a contest. He's tall, so he can take a mark if he goes forward and help up defensively. But he just doesn't have the skill level to play there, I think, long-term. When you're a winger, Drewy, like Hutch, quite often when you get the ball, you're getting it around half back, so you have to make an important kick to keep possession. If you're on the wing, you're quite often going in the corridor, which is a risky kick because you can't afford to turn it over. Or you're kicking inside 50, where you have to spot up a target. And that's why the best wingers have always been really cultured users of the football. They've been able to, all they've got is just such a penetrating kick, they kick over the lines. I like Hutch when we used him as a bit of a tagger. I thought he looked good in that role. And then we took that away from him and put him on the wing. Or maybe as a hard-working half-forward, like in Owi's position, where he can just run and tackle, take the odd mark, kick the odd goal, and just be the defensive forward that the team needs at the moment. But on a wing, I just don't see how he's going to end up being the long-term option in that position for us.
Yeah, I would play him in that half-forward role. And if there's a job for him to do in the midfield, then like if Petrarca got off the chain this week, you could use him or something on Petrarca for a bit. But, yeah, I'm over him as a wingman, and he's been one of the players at the top of my hit list for a little while in terms of frustration at his contract that he's been given and at his overall performance in recent times. But, we've got time to be patient with these guys. I'm less patient about Owies. I'm more willing to give Hutchinson more time in the system. He's only been in the club a year, so we can give him a bit of time. That's fine. But I'm with you. I think high half forward, I prefer him to see in that role where he can just be he is a workhorse. He's an athlete workhorse, and he needs to work on his skills and his footy nous and all that stuff. But you can tell he doesn't.
You can tell he doesn't back himself. He gets the ball in the wing, and you can tell he's got that second of doubt. Well, I don't know if I can make this kick on the 45 because I might turn it over, or I don't feel I can really spot up a leading target, so I'm just going to kick. Really?
Sorry, mate, I just had a drop out there. Have you got me, Garby?
Yeah.
Right, so I think I could see Hunt maybe coming in and being sub this week, or certainly I like the idea of that injection of experience. I mean, I know we've talked about Campbell Chesser a lot for a guy that has done very little. I would like to see him get a run before the end of the season, whether that's this week. Like we've had a look at Davis, we've had a look at some guys. Like we haven't seen like Johnston and Rawlinson this year, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I saw Newton had reasonable numbers. Whether he gets a crack soon or other mid-season draftee. Looks like Luca Grego's sort of his form through the middle of the year hasn't been carrying over. So I guess we just see a bit of Gross and then we'll see what happens. But what seemed like a winnable game for us a few weeks ago, probably with Edwards and Reid out, I think it's going to be a bridge too far with pressure on Melbourne and Simon Goodwin. This feels like this is the win that they need to have. And I'm not sure we're capable of producing, an upset with the personnel that we have. So, would you like to talk a bit of Harley Reid?
Yeah, we should probably do that. We've sort of left that to the end, and let's cover it all off. Before we do, though, I want to ask you, with a month to go, how would you rate or how would you assess Andrew McWalter as our coach right now? And I know the true judgment will come in time. Before we get on to Harley, where are you sitting on Mini with a month to go in the season?
I think there's been the best thing about his tenure so far has been that there's been a discernible change in the way that we play.
Yeah.
And when it clicks, I think it looks good, and I feel like we're moving in the right direction in terms of trying to bring our game up to speed with how it should be played. I guess the slight irony of that is that then this season, the teams with the really skillful kickers seem to be having a great year, which is almost a throwback to when we won it in 2018. But, I think at least we've been able to identify a shift in game style. But honestly, it's probably been a C. I'd grade it a C so far. At least they've been able to, one thing he's been able to do is change the fortunes of Harry Edwards to the point where yesterday he said he's been one of our most important players over the last 2 months.
Harry's been great.
So, that's got to be a tick, that he's been able to get to a point where he didn't want to play him at all to now him being one of our better performers. So he takes some credit there. But across the board, apart from Jimby and probably Hoff playing through the midfield, there hasn't been many positives, I would say.
Yeah, I think the game plan looks like it's one for the future, and crucially, the players are buying in. I can see that the players, they believe in it, and they think it will be the best way to play moving forward. There's just fluctuations in confidence when it comes to execution. There have been times where we've been able to execute it really well and others where we've lost our way for a variety of reasons. So I think it's positive overall in that sense. Now, the big question mark is he enough of a leader to, yes, take enough players up to the next level and really inspire the team? And that we don't quite know just yet. That'll be told in time when he's got proper personnel to work with. And that still remains unknown and probably a bit of a question mark for the team. Now, we need a couple of midfielders, as we've said, for a while now. James Worpel, I mean, you're closer to the scene there in Melbourne. Why is he a player that we're not being spoken about a lot? He's a free agent coming out of contract. Is he not someone that we could tempt with cash?
Yeah, sounds like the reason that the Worpel chat died off was because it sounded like he was basically committed to Geelong. So once that had been made public, I think it just sort of everything slowed down from Worpel's perspective. Right. Was there another midfielder that Geelong were into?
The one that we've been linked to over the weekend is Alex Davies from Gold Coast. And he came in, played well against Brisbane. Why not?
Pretty bloody well. Yeah, I think for the most part he has always looked good as an inside midfielder. It's just that he's behind Tuke Miller, Anderson, Rao, Flanders, Fiorini. There's a lot of guys there. But he looks reasonable, and he's like a good size. He's probably lacks it in, he's got some rough edges, I think would be the way to describe him. But that, to me, that would be because he just hasn't had a season where he's played 22 games as an inside mid. If he was given a bit of time, he might be able to smooth over a few of the bumps in his game. But I like him. I mean, we have to get someone.
Oh, we need more than. I think we need two. I think we need two. They don't have to be experienced players, but two ready-made guys ready to slot in there. And then we've obviously got to go to the draft and try and get one or two guns as well. but we need two ready-made. We have the worst midfield in a long, long time in the AFL. I don't want to say the worst ever because you just don't quite know, but we have an abhorrent midfield. With Yo out, that's a big factor, of course, but he's been injured that often. How can you rely on him? So, yeah, it's as weak as the competition has seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'll put a name to you who I think we should have a crack at. Jack Steele.
Yeah, well, apparently linked to Collingwood, but yes, this is the kind of player that can come in. Now, it all comes down to how much you give up, and Paddy Cripps has been mentioned as well. You wouldn't want to give up too much for these guys because they're closer to the end than the start, obviously, but we need someone to come in there and provide a big body and leadership and experience and help out Harley, and the other young guys coming through. So, yeah, he would be a very good option, but by all reports, it's looking likely to Collingwood.
Yeah, so the way that we would be able to tempt Steele would be with just more money. And
yeah,
it's like he doesn't like the spotlight, hasn't really enjoyed being captain. Can we tempt him with beaches and sunshine and $1 million a year? Like that's sort of where we're at.
Yeah, but, for 2 years.
The lure of playing for the Pies, playing Anzac Day, competing for a flag, like that's pretty big. It's hard to compete with.
Yeah, yeah. All right, how long we got for Harley?
It's a good question. Where's the timer? I think let's just get stuck into it.
Okay. So what's your gut telling you?
So Harley Reid, I think the numbers that have been reported in terms of what the Reid camp have put to West Coast in the 2+9, I think the numbers are too much. But
for the Eagles to accept.
Yes. I mean, obviously they're coming from, it's their first offer they put down. So obviously we can come, we have the right to negotiate and bring that number down.
Yeah.
I think it's too much. The reason is the big thing that I think investing in Harley is a great decision. But if we're paying him $2 to $2.5 million a year for those first 2 years, and we're trying to get Chad Warner to come to the club, and we're trying to recruit players, like how much are we going to have to offer our potential recruits to make them feel like they're valued when we're offering so much to one player? Like the numbers start to get a bit funky. That's my concern. Like right now, Chad Warner is a better player than Harley Reid.
Yeah.
It feels like, what are we going to do when we negotiate with Chad? It's like, well, we're giving Harley 2.5. You can have 1.2. So you're half the player that Harley is. But we're not going to be able to afford to offer any more. So that's my concern, is the numbers are so astronomical that it handcuffs us with negotiations for other players. Because surely there's this human element to it where Chad and whoever else it might be, they can't help but look at what he's on and think, oh, what am I worth?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that's valid to be concerned about that?
Very much so. I mean, it's a common thing in the English Premier League. They all get paid crazy amounts, and you speak to players and they go, it's not about the amount of money. I know I'm on crazy money. It's about how you are valued by that club and someone else who doesn't give as much or works. I'm not saying Harley wouldn't, but someone else who isn't worth as much getting more. And that's, that's commonplace in lots of workplaces. So, no, I get that element to it, and also being held to ransom. The Eagles need Harley more than Harley needs the Eagles right now. Right? That's the fact, Drew. Yep. Right? We need him more than he needs us at the moment. He's got plenty of options. So they can expose us, his management and Harley, in terms of finances and take advantage of that situation. And, yeah, we'll be happy to give up a bit more than perhaps he's worth based on his output so far, even though it's been better than a lot of critics will say. But we're also not going to have a gun put to our head and give up everything and then leave ourselves in bigger problems down the road. I think we're smart enough to work through that, and how the 9 years factors in terms of evening it all out, we'll have to wait and see. The gut feel around everywhere is that he signs for 2 more years, all right? That seems to be the sentiment. Not guaranteed, and who knows with this injury what it does to everything. But the feeling is he probably signs for 2 years, and then, he'll assess the lay of the land and where we're at and which players have come in and how much we're improving. But, yes, I agree with you. The money needs to be right, and there is a possibility that they'll be asking too much, and we'll say, no, this is what it has to be. And he'll say, all right, well, I'm walking then because I'm not going to take the risk on West Coast languishing down the bottom anymore. I'll go to a club that I know is on the way up.
Yeah, and there has to be some give and take from Harley, because if he wants to take $2 million a year out of the salary cap, then he's impinging us from recruiting the best players to help him get to where he wants to be. Will Schofield talked about this last week when we talked about the money for Harley and the contracts. He's like, when you get to the end of your contract, you don't think about how much money you were able to extract out of your football club at the peak of your powers. Think about the flags and the friendships and these football memories that you take with you. Like, you'll earn your money. Harley Reid's...
But I don't think, I think there's no doubt that Harley's committed to the club. He wants to see the club succeed. That is, anyone who doubts that, I think is reading it extremely wrong.
Yeah, so I agree with you. This to me was a positive, that his management were willing to come and say, here's this idea that we could play 11 more years at the footy club. That to me is a positive. Is there any part of you, or have you considered that they have put this offer on the table, which is, from a money perspective, astronomical, the biggest contract in AFL history? Is there any part of you that feels like they're doing this to sort of say, here's what it takes for us to stay, and we don't think you're going to pay it, so therefore this is it?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that angle. I've thought about the angle of using us as leverage. So, and maybe it's a bit of the same, but the management comes to us first. We've got the cash. We need him the most. He's here now. This is what the Eagles have agreed to this, and they can then take it to other clubs and get a similar deal. And Harley, is open to that. So there's the leverage aspect to it, which I've been concerned about. So I haven't been as enthused by his agent coming to West Coast first as others, because there is that possibility in the mind. But I think he definitely likes West Coast a lot, and he's really keen to see us succeed. I've watched every interview with him, as I'm sure most fans are. And the way he plays, he's immature sometimes, and he's giving away a lot of free kicks and doing a lot of silly things. We all know that. A lot of that's because he just wants to win badly, right? The notion that he doesn't care or dislikes the Eagles is just complete nonsense.
No,
he cares a lot.
It's wrong. That's just wrong.
Yeah. So, I think there's a gut feel that he does sign on for 2 more years. But, yes, the money needs to be looked at. We will also be, and I've got some reasonable authority, our third parties will be coming in and trying to help out as much as they can to get Harley to sign. That doesn't mean anything illegal goes on. It's not as if there's no money under the table or brown paper bags. But all clubs use their sponsors, and we've been good at it in the past, to try and, find other avenues for him to invest the money that he's going to earn and show him how he can make even more money in the future with his big contract. I mean, the Eagles of 2006, was it Nigel Sadley Holmes or whatever it is? I mean, they all made fortunes on housing developments through, as we've been told, through the sponsors in that era. There'll be people coming to Harley and saying, you invest this here and you're going to make even more. So hopefully those things make a difference too, but things are already happening in that space to entice him.
Yeah, if people are saying publicly, so-called experts, that he's checked out and he wants to leave, like they're not watching Harley play. No. There's no one on the team that wants it more. Like, he is just hard on the sleeve. Like, he's sick for it. Like, he just wants to win and play well, and you got to respect him for that. And he's been awesome the last 8 weeks. If we're being honest, as a guy who's leading the midfield, is 20 years of age. It's unfortunate that he's injured. That goal that he kicked, I think in the second quarter, the fact that he was the breakaway speed, the power, the confidence, and he doesn't even slow down when he kicks a goal. Garby, for those who say that he's not committed to West Coast and he wants out, they're just not watching the Eagles closely enough or at all, because there's no one on the field who's more committed, who wants it badder, wants it more. He's sick for it, and his commitment is to be commended, and he's been really good over the last 8 weeks. It's just unfortunate this injury has come at a bad time. I was looking forward to watching him on Saturday night at Marvel, so it's a shame. But he's made steps in the right direction in terms of his development. Whatever happens with his contract, let's hope that at least we get him for another couple of years at the Eagles, so we can actually start to improve and show him what this project could be once we start getting the wheels moving.
Go Eagles.
Thanks, crew.